resonates with your heart and release anything that isn't meant for you. All right, Sagittarius, let's get into your reading. So the message that I have for you today is this, and please take it in fully. A massive confession is building on their side, one that will change the landscape between you forever. They are preparing to lay everything bare, and the apology forming inside them is raw and overdue. This is not a surface-level gesture or a convenient return. This is a complete emotional surrender to you. They weighed every option available to them, and the verdict came back with your name written on it. Walking away from everything else became the only path, the only option, once clarity finally struck them. The sacrifice involved in choosing you is enormous, and they accepted that cost without flinching or looking backward. Bridges are being burned deliberately because they decided that nothing outside of you holds genuine meaning anymore. Let us go ahead and get into it because the cards validate every piece of what is unfolding. The first card we have for you is the Tower, and it speaks to a dramatic internal collapse. The Tower represents a complete dismantling, a tearing apart of the false life they built without you. Everything they constructed as a replacement for this bond crumbled, and it fell apart rapidly and violently. What crashed was not random. It was the illusion that they could sustain a life without you. Structures they leaned on for comfort dissolved overnight, and when the dust cleared, only you remained standing. The Tower does not arrive gently, and neither did the realization that hit them about what they lost. It struck like a lightning bolt, sudden and disorienting, stripping away every excuse they had been clinging to. They watched their alternatives collapse one by one, and each failure pointed them directly back toward you. No amount of distraction or avoidance could withstand it, and what the Tower toppled left them exposed. This card confirms that the confession approaching you was not born from calm reflection, but from upheaval. They were shaken into honesty, forced to see what they refused to acknowledge when everything else was intact. The next card coming through is the King of Cups, and he reveals the emotional maturity emerging now. A shift has occurred inside them, and for the first time, they approach you from a grounded place. The King of Cups shows someone who finally mastered the chaos within, channeling it into composed certainty. They are no longer reacting impulsively. They are choosing you from a place of emotional clarity and depth. This card tells me their apology will carry weight because it comes from earned understanding rather than panic. The emotional intelligence they lacked before has been forged, painfully, through the experience of losing you. Maturity replaced recklessness, and that transformation is exactly why their confession will feel different from anything prior. The king holds his cup steady, and that steadiness mirrors the deep resolve they carry regarding you. They processed the damage they caused, sat with the full gravity of it, and emerged with brutal self-awareness. Accountability is no longer something they dodge. They are walking straight into it and owning every misstep. The version of them approaching you now is rebuilt from the wreckage, and that reconstruction was deliberate. Then we have the Ace of Pentacles, confirming a tangible offer being brought directly to your feet. The Ace of Pentacles shows a brand new foundation being presented, one built on commitment and real substance. This is not an empty promise wrapped in pretty language. This is an offering backed by solid intention. Something concrete is being brought to the table, a plan and a willingness to rebuild from scratch. The ace shows a golden opportunity being extended your way, and it carries long-term stability at its core. They want to prove themselves through material and emotional investment, not just words that vanish after the moment. Every card in this spread confirms the same undeniable truth. They are choosing you above all else now. The confession heading your way is backed by sacrifice, maturity, and a tangible commitment they intend to honor. So when I tell you a confession and apology is coming, the cards leave zero room for question. Walking away from everything else was their choice because they realized that you are all that matters. Now, let us talk about you, because your experience through all of this deserves to be fully honored. You've been sitting with a tension that nobody around you fully grasped, and it drained you quietly. There were moments where you wondered if your patience was foolish or if holding on made you weak. That inner questioning became a constant companion, and it sat beside you during every uncertain, sleepless night. But what I need you to understand is that your endurance was never weakness. It was rare discipline. You stayed open when closing off would have been easier, and that openness cost you dearly at times. The ache you carried was layered, and each layer held a different shade of grief and quiet frustration. Disappointment became familiar, and you learned to brace yourself for it, even when hope whispered otherwise, quietly. You mourned what was promised but never delivered, and that kind of loss cuts deeper than most. The first card is the Page of Cups, and she speaks to the tenderness still living in you. The Page of Cups shows someone whose emotional sensitivity remained intact, despite everything designed to harden you. You never became bitter, and that is remarkable, because bitterness would have been the natural response to betrayal. Instead, you kept your softness alive, guarding it carefully like something precious that deserved protecting at all costs. This card reveals that your capacity to feel deeply is not a flaw. It is your rarest quality. Others would have shut down entirely, but you chose to remain emotionally available even when it hurt badly. The page also mirrors a quiet hopefulness you carry, one you rarely admit to anyone, including yourself sometimes. Deep beneath the exhaustion and the guarded exterior, a small flame of expectation still burns, steadily in you. You tried to extinguish that hope more than once, convincing yourself that expectation would only invite pain. But it refused to die, and that persistence tells me your intuition recognized something your mind denied. The next card is the Five of Swords, and this one acknowledges the battles you fought within yourself. Internal conflict defined much of your recent experience, a war between what you wanted and what felt safe. The Five of Swords shows someone who argued with their own heart, debating whether to stay or leave. You replayed conversations, dissected motives, and exhausted yourself trying to determine whether any of it was ever real. This card validates the mental fatigue you accumulated, because fighting yourself is the most draining war anyone wages. You questioned your own judgment harshly, wondering if you misread signals or invented a connection that never existed. But the Five of Swords also reveals that you eventually laid those weapons down, choosing truth over torment. You stopped punishing yourself for caring, and in that surrender you found a fragile but genuine peace within. Then we have Strength, and this card mirrors the quiet resilience that has been carrying you through everything. Strength does not roar in this position, she whispers, and that whisper sustained you when nothing else could. You held yourself together with a composure that others mistook for indifference, but it was anything but casual. Every day you chose to keep going required courage, a quiet force operating beneath your surface, without applause. Strength confirms that your emotional backbone is forged from real experience, not from theory or borrowed wisdom. You survived the worst of this season, quietly, by relying on a fortitude you never knew you possessed. The lion at her feet represents every impulse you tamed, every reaction you swallowed, every tear you hid. That restraint was not suppression, it was mastery, and it shaped you into someone profoundly self-possessed now. Your silence was never indifference. It was composure forged under pressure that most people will never understand. All three cards confirm that you weathered this storm with integrity, and your emotional core remains unbroken. You stand here today not as someone defeated by what happened, but as someone refined entirely by it. Whatever comes next, you face it knowing who you are, and that certainty cannot be taken from you. The woman in these cards is tender, battle-tested, and unshakably strong, and that is precisely who you became. So let us look at what is happening inside of them, because their inner world is unraveling fast. They are carrying a guilt so dense, so consuming, that it reshaped the way they see themselves entirely. The weight of what they did sits on them constantly, and it refuses to let them rest. Pretending they were fine lasted only so long, and eventually the cracks became entirely impossible to hide. Internally, they hit a breaking point, a moment where denial collapsed and truth flooded in without mercy. The version of themselves they performed for the outside world, carefully, no longer matches who they are privately. A deep reckoning took place within them, and it stripped them of every justification they once relied on. They can no longer rationalize the choices that separated you, because hindsight exposed the damage with brutal clarity. The first card is the Hierophant, and he reveals a profound moral crisis happening beneath their surface. The Hierophant shows someone questioning the belief system that guided their decisions, finding it hollow and insufficient. What they once treated as principle turned out to be avoidance dressed in conviction, and they see it. The values they claimed to follow were shields against intimacy, and recognizing that truth shattered their self-image. A spiritual awakening is taking root deep inside them, one born from genuine regret and radical self-examination. Old patterns of emotional detachment no longer serve them, and the discomfort of that realization is overwhelming. The Hierophant also reveals they have been seeking counsel, confiding in someone about what they feel for you. Admitting out loud that they were wrong cracked something open, and vulnerability poured through that opening uncontrollably. Saying your name out loud to another person while confessing their failure made everything undeniably concrete. It stopped being abstract and it became a spoken truth they can no longer take back or undo. The next card is the Ten of Swords, and this one captures the complete emotional devastation they endured. The Ten of Swords shows someone who hit absolute rock bottom, face down beneath the weight of consequence. They experienced a collapse that forced total surrender, where every coping mechanism they relied on failed simultaneously. The pain of losing you was not gradual. It accumulated silently until one moment it crushed them entirely. This card confirms that the lowest point has already been reached, and there is nowhere further to fall. From that darkness, a strange clarity emerged, the kind that only arrives after everything false has been destroyed. They lay in the wreckage of their own choices, finally, and stopped blaming anything external for what happened. Ownership replaced excuses, and that transformation happened in the most painful and private moments of their existence. The person who once deflected blame now holds it willingly, and that shift changed their entire internal landscape. Then we have the Queen of Wands, and she reveals a fierce determination now burning inside of them. The Queen of Wands shows that from the ashes of their collapse, a renewed purpose ignited within. Wallowing is behind them now, and something shifted within that turned grief into passionate and focused resolve. The fire inside them is directed at making things right, and it consumes every remaining priority. This card reveals an intensity they did not possess before, forged through the pain of nearly losing you. Their devotion to correcting what they broke is not casual. It is obsessive in the most sincere way. The Queen holds her flame with authority, and that mirrors the conviction now living inside their confession. What drives them is not desperation. It is a transformed understanding of what you genuinely mean to them. All three cards expose someone dismantled by remorse, then rebuilt from scratch by fierce and focused intention. Their inner world is consumed by one single truth, that walking away from you was their greatest mistake. Regret became the foundation they stand on now, and from it grew a commitment fiercer than anything prior. The apology forming inside them is not rehearsed performance. It is the raw output of genuine transformation. Every layer of pride and pretense has been stripped away, leaving only honesty and unrelenting devotion. Okay, let us get into the action, because what they are about to do speaks louder than words. A plan has already been set into motion, and the steps they are taking are calculated and precise. They mapped out exactly how they intend to approach you, and nothing about it is left to chance. The timeline they are working with is short, because urgency replaced procrastination the moment clarity took hold. Preparation is happening behind the scenes right now, and it involves cutting ties that conflict with choosing you. Relationships, habits, distractions, anything that stands between them and you is being actively dismantled or abandoned. The severing is not hypothetical. It is already underway, and the people around them are noticing the shift. Pruning away everything that does not serve this pursuit became their sole occupation, and the cuts run deep. They canceled commitments, withdrew from situations, and redirected their entire focus toward one singular outcome involving you. The first card is the Two of Wands, and he confirms a strategic decision already locked in. The Two of Wands shows someone at the edge of action, holding the world in their hands deliberately. They have chosen their direction, and that direction leads exclusively to you, without detour or backup plan. This card reveals long-range planning, not impulsive reaction, and every detail of their approach has been considered. This card confirms they already visualized the outcome, and now they are executing it, step by deliberate step. Logistics are being handled, schedules rearranged, and practical barriers removed so nothing obstructs the path to you. A conversation is being drafted mentally, one where they confess everything and offer a concrete plan forward. They rehearse it constantly, adjusting the words each time until the delivery feels worthy of what you deserve. Expect the initial contact to arrive through a channel that feels personal, not casual or accidental in tone. They chose the medium deliberately, wanting the first interaction to carry weight and signal serious intention immediately. The Two of Wands also indicates that they looked at the bigger picture thoroughly before committing to this. This was not a rash decision made in a weak moment. It was architecture built on absolute certainty. They evaluated what life looks like with you versus without, and the contrast left zero room for debate. Every alternative they entertained fell flat, and the only future that held substance was the one including you. The next card is the Knight of Swords, and he charges forward, confirming swift and decisive action now. The Knight of Swords cuts through hesitation like a blade, and that mirrors exactly how they are operating. Speed defines their current behavior, and they are moving faster than you might anticipate or feel prepared for. Delays are being treated as obstacles to eliminate, not reasons to pause or reconsider their chosen direction. A decision was made, and they refused to let anything slow down the execution of it whatsoever. Old patterns, old excuses, and old fears are being cut through with a sharpness that never existed before. The Knight confirms that the apology and confession will not trickle in gradually. It will arrive with force. Expect directness that catches you off guard, because softening what needs to be said is not their priority. Communication is imminent, and the words they bring will be stripped of decoration and filled with raw accountability. Testing the waters is not the plan. They are coming to claim their place beside you permanently. Obstacles others placed in the way are being overridden, and no external force slows their committed trajectory. Outside opinions, family resistance, social pressure, none of it holds enough power to slow their forward trajectory. The coordination behind their approach reveals someone who has treated reconciliation as a mission, not a wish. Both cards confirm that the action phase has already begun, and the momentum behind it is irreversible now. They are dismantling their old life piece by piece and rebuilding it with you at the absolute center. What arrives next is not a tentative gesture. It is a full declaration backed by sacrifice and structure. The movement toward you is locked in, calculated, and swift, and nothing standing in its way will survive. Now, let us go deeper into this, because the confessions they refuse to speak are the loudest truths. What lives beneath their surface is a desperation so intense, so consuming, that it rewrites everything they knew. They will not admit this openly, but you became the measuring stick for every experience in their life. Nothing tastes the same, nothing excites them the same, and nothing comforts them the way you once did. The secret they guard most fiercely is that they never stopped belonging to you, not for one day. Detachment was merely a costume they wore publicly, while privately they orbited around every memory of you, obsessively. They rehearse apologies in the mirror, whispering words they cannot yet bring themselves to deliver to your face. The confession trapped inside them is not a single sentence. It is an entire unwritten letter spanning years. The first card is the Devil, and he exposes the obsessive attachment they have been concealing from everyone. The Devil reveals a bond they consider inescapable, a gravitational pull toward you that defies all rational thought. They are chained to the memory of you, and what terrifies them most is that they welcome it. The attachment is not something they want to break free from. It is something they crave surrendering to. This card shows me a hunger that operates just beneath their controlled exterior, raw and consuming and unfiltered. They fantasize about you in ways that go far beyond romance, envisioning a connection that is almost primal. The Devil confirms that their desire is tangled with shame, because the intensity of it frightens even them. Wanting someone this desperately feels like raw vulnerability, the kind they were never taught to accept or carry. They hide it behind composure, behind silence, behind carefully constructed indifference that crumbles the moment they are alone. In private, the mask dissolves completely, and what remains is a person consumed by longing they cannot name. Something they will never willingly volunteer is that they compared every touch, every conversation, every glance to yours. Each comparison only deepened the wound because it proved that what you shared was singular and irreplaceable entirely. A confession wrapped in possessiveness also surfaces. They do not want anyone else to have you at all. Jealousy sits at the core of their silence, and the thought of you with someone else destroys them. They monitored your life from a distance, not from curiosity, but from a fundamental need to stay tethered. Every update, every shift in your world registered with them like a tremor they could not stop tracking. The next card here is the Nine of Cups, exposing their deepest wish sitting right behind their ribs. This is the wish card, and the wish they carry in deepest secret is entirely about you. They want the complete picture with you, mornings and evenings and everything mundane and extraordinary woven together. Domesticity is the hidden craving. Ordinary life shared with you is what haunts their most private daydreams. The Nine of Cups confirms that their ultimate fantasy is emotional satisfaction, and you are its only source. They imagined holidays with you, milestones celebrated beside you, and aging alongside the one person who understood them. What they suppress most violently is the admission that they already see you as permanent, as irreversible. In their mind, you are not an option among many. You are the conclusion they keep arriving at. The Nine of Cups also reveals a confession buried beneath layers of pride, fear, and self-protective instinct. Being chosen by you is what they crave equally, and the fear of unworthiness haunts them constantly. Reciprocity is the unspoken need driving everything. They want to know that you still feel what they feel. The terror of confessing and being met with indifference is, ultimately, the single barrier keeping them silent. Both cards expose a person drowning in unspoken devotion, chained willingly to a love they tried to abandon. Every hidden confession circles the same axis, that you are the one thing they cannot live without. What they bury deepest is not doubt, it is absolute certainty that you belong together permanently and wholly. The silence between you holds more truth than any words they have spoken, and they know it fully. So, let us bring this reading to its close, because the near future carries something extraordinary. What approaches is not a vague possibility. It is a concrete shift that reshapes everything between you. The timing ahead favors reconciliation, and the universe positioned every element to support this reunion unfolding naturally. Within the coming weeks, expect their confession to arrive with a sincerity you have not felt before. The first card is Judgment, and she confirms a moment of divine reckoning arriving at your doorstep. Judgment reveals that this reconnection carries spiritual significance, as though a higher force orchestrated the alignment between you. The next card is the Four of Wands, promising celebration and stability entering your connection directly ahead. The Four of Wands shows a homecoming, a reuniting that feels like arriving somewhere you both always belonged. Partnership rooted in mutual respect and earned trust is what the near future holds, confirmed by this card. Stability replaces the chaos that defined earlier chapters, and what takes its place feels permanent and intentional. Here is my advice as you step into this new chapter, and I truly need you to listen. Do not abandon the standards you built during your healing, because those boundaries are your greatest protection now. Let their confession land fully before you respond. Give yourself the space to feel it without rushing. Accountability must be specific, not general, and the apology they deliver should name exactly what they did wrong. Guard your peace without closing your heart, because both can exist simultaneously if you allow them to coexist. Trust actions over words in the weeks ahead, and let consistency prove what promises alone never could. You earned the right to receive this love from a position of strength, not from desperation or loneliness. Whatever you decide, make sure it honors the version of yourself that survived the hardest season intact. So, the message today was this: a big confession and apology is coming, and they are choosing you. They are walking away from everything else, and every single card in this reading confirmed that truth powerfully. The Tower showed the dramatic collapse of the false life they built, shattering every illusion they clung to. King of Cups revealed the emotional maturity that emerged from that wreckage, grounded and ready to approach you. Ace of Pentacles confirmed a tangible offering being brought forward, commitment backed by real substance and solid intention. Page of Cups mirrored the tenderness still alive inside you, sensitivity that survived everything designed to harden you. Five of Swords honored the internal battles you fought, the exhausting war between wanting and protecting yourself fiercely. Strength validated the quiet resilience carrying you through, composure forged under pressure that others never fully witnessed. The Hierophant exposed their moral crisis, a dismantling of the belief system that justified their original departure. Ten of Swords captured the absolute rock bottom they reached, total collapse that finally forced honest self-examination. Queen of Wands revealed fierce determination ignited from their ashes, purpose rebuilt around correcting their mistake. Two of Wands confirmed strategic planning already locked in, a calculated pursuit with your name as its destination. Knight of Swords showed the swift, decisive action now underway, cutting through every obstacle standing between you both. The Devil exposed the obsessive attachment they conceal, a gravitational pull toward you they no longer resist. Nine of Cups revealed their deepest wish, one centered entirely on building an ordinary, extraordinary life beside you. Judgment promised a moment of divine reckoning ahead, spiritual alignment, orchestrating the reunion that is already approaching. And the Four of Wands sealed it, homecoming and celebration, and a partnership built on earned mutual trust. Every card across all six parts carried the same unmistakable message. This love is real, and it returns. You are chosen, you are wanted, and the confession heading your way will change everything between you forever. Hold your worth close, trust the process, and know that what belongs to you is arriving. Thank you so much for being here with me today. It means everything, and I appreciate you. Sending you all my love, all my light, and I will see you in the very next reading. And the universe positioned every element to support this reunion unfolding naturally. Within the coming weeks, expect their confession to arrive with a sincerity you have not felt before. The first card is Judgment, and she confirms a moment of divine reckoning arriving at your doorstep. Judgment reveals that this reconnection carries spiritual significance, as though a higher force orchestrated the alignment between you. The next card is the Four of Wands, promising celebration and stability entering your connection directly ahead. The Four of Wands shows a homecoming, a reuniting that feels like arriving somewhere you both always belonged. Partnership rooted in mutual respect and earned trust is what the near future holds, confirmed by this card. Stability replaces the chaos that defined earlier chapters, and what takes its place feels permanent and intentional. Here is my advice as you step into this new chapter, and I truly need you to listen. Do not abandon the standards you built during your healing, because those boundaries are your greatest protection now. Let their confession land fully before you respond. Give yourself the space to feel it without rushing. Accountability must be specific, not general, and the apology they deliver should name exactly what they did wrong. Guard your peace without closing your heart. because both can exist simultaneously if you allow them to coexist. Trust actions over words in the weeks ahead, and let consistency prove what promises alone never could. You earned the right to receive this love from a position